Before the story starts, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
The land had its own rhythm. Every morning, the sun rose slowly over wide open fields. Golden light touched the grass. The wind moved softly, like it was careful not to disturb anything. Cows stood quietly across the pasture. Some chewed grass. Some rested. Some watched the horizon. This land was not loud. It did not rush. It had been this way for decades. The man who owned the land lived a simple life. He woke up before sunrise. Not because of an alarm, but because his body knew the time. He pulled on his boots, stepped outside, and breathed in the fresh air. No traffic. No neighbors complaining. No rules taped to doors. Just open space. This land was not empty. It was working land. Active cattle range. Every fence had a reason. Every open area had a purpose. Every animal knew where it belonged. And so did he. The man had papers older than most houses in town. His family had owned this land long before streets had names. Long before rules came with fines. Long before anyone talked about community planning. The land fed cattle. The cattle fed families. That was the cycle. Simple. Honest. Enough. That morning started like any other. The man poured coffee into a chipped mug. Sat on his porch. Watched the cattle move slowly through the mist. Peace sat heavy in the air. Then something broke it. At first, it was a sound. Low. Distant. A sound that did not belong. The man frowned slightly. The cows noticed it too. A few lifted their heads. Ears turned toward the road. The sound grew louder. Engines. Heavy ones. The man stood up. The mug stayed on the porch, forgotten. He walked toward the fence line, boots pressing into damp soil. As the mist cleared, he saw them. Large yellow machines. Metal arms. Thick tires. Construction vehicles. Moving straight toward his land. His steps slowed. This had never happened before. No letter. No call. No notice. Just machines. Crossing into his pasture. Workers climbed down. They laughed. They talked loudly. One of them pulled out spray paint. White lines appeared on the grass. Straight. Clean. Cutting through cow paths. Cutting through feeding areas. Cutting through land that was never meant to be cut. The man reached the fence. He cleared his throat. "Can I help you?" he asked calmly. One worker turned around. "Oh," the worker said, surprised. "We're building a bike path." The man blinked. "A bike path?" he repeated. The worker nodded. HOA project. Approved and everything. Approved. The word felt heavy. The man looked down at the painted line again. It ran directly through the center of the pasture. Through a place where cows moved every day. This wasn't just wrong. It was dangerous. "This is private land," the man said. The worker shrugged. "That's not what we were told." The man did not argue. He turned and walked back to his truck. He already knew where this came from. The HOA. The Homeowners Association had arrived a few years ago. Neat houses. Perfect lawns. Too many rules. They controlled everything inside their lines. But those lines had never included his land. Never. That afternoon, the man drove to the HOA office. The building looked clean and bright. Fake plants. Fresh paint. Inside, voices echoed. Rules hung on the walls. Warnings. Fines. Restrictions. Then he saw her. The HOA president. Perfect hair. Sharp eyes. A smile that did not reach them. Yes, she asked. Her tone said she was already annoyed. You're building a bike path on my pasture, the man said calmly. She smiled wider. That land was marked and used, she replied. The man shook his head. It's active cattle range. She laughed softly. Well, she said, leaning back. People want a safe place to ride bikes. The man looked at her carefully. That land is not safe, he said. She waved her hand. That's not our concern, she said. Put up a fence. Control your animals. The man felt something cold settle in his chest. Not fear. Understanding. There are cows there, he said slowly. Large ones. She smiled again. Then put up a sign, she said. The meeting ended. Just like that? The next day, the fence was cut. The cows stood confused. The machines moved deeper. The bike path began to take shape. Smooth. Clear. Perfect. Right through danger. The man did not stop them. Instead, he placed signs. Big signs. Private property. Active cattle range. Enter at your own risk. The signs were impossible to miss. 2 days later, the path opened. The HOA celebrated. Families arrived. Children laughed. Cyclists smiled. They trusted paint and promises. They did not watch the cows. They did not listen to the land. From a distance, the man watched. Silent. Still. The cows stood behind him. The wind moved through the grass. The land felt tense. Like it was holding its breath. The man whispered softly. They were warned. The cows remained still. Waiting. The morning sun rose slowly, spilling golden light across the pasture. From the man's porch, everything looked peaceful. The cows moved quietly, chewing grass, stepping carefully over the soft earth. The wind whispered through the tall grass. It almost felt like the land itself was holding its breath. But the peace was fragile. Yesterday's chaos had only scratched the surface. The bike path cut through the pasture now, smooth and straight. Fresh white paint marked the ground like a scar. Signs that said private property and active cattle range had been placed, but some were missing, cut down by the HOA workers as if the warnings never mattered. Inside the HOA office, the mood was very different. Perfect carpet. Pristine walls. The smell of fresh coffee and authority. The president of the HOA, the woman who had approved the bike path, paced back and forth. Her heels clicked against the floor. She was sharp, confident, and dangerous in a quiet way, the kind of person who believed rules were power. To her, the land was unused. To her, the man's warnings were inconvenient. To her, the cows were invisible. She clapped her hands sharply, and the board of directors looked up. People want a safe path, she said. They want order. They want rules. And we will give it to them. A junior board member raised his hand nervously. But, what about the cattle? He asked. The president's smile was thin, almost cruel. They belong to him, she said sharply. They are not our problem. Not anymore. The board fell silent. She tapped a stack of papers. Send him a warning if he complains again. Make it formal. Make it scary. And just like that, the plan was set. Power, as she saw it, had to be asserted. Even if it meant risking everything. Meanwhile, the man was watching. He had noticed the subtle changes in the herd. The cows were uneasy. The bull, massive, imposing, stood at the edge of the path, watching, calculating. Animals sense danger before humans do. The man knew this. He also knew that warning the HOA was pointless, they would never listen until something broke. That afternoon, a letter arrived. Thick paper. Bold words. The HOA's signature at the bottom. It accused him of potential danger to public users and failure to control livestock. It demanded immediate compliance. It was not a request. It was a threat. He folded the letter calmly. Placed it with other documents. Old, legal, untouchable documents. He did not reply immediately. The next day, machines returned. They brought benches, trash cans, and more signs. The path was becoming a proper community trail. Any evidence of the man's warnings was removed. They even cut down one of his private signs. He watched silently from his truck. Boots on the dashboard. Eyes sharp. Silence can be a weapon. The HOA misread it as fear. Cyclists arrived. A group of teenagers laughed as they sped down the path. One rang his bell repeatedly, ignoring the signs. Another waved at the camera, thinking this was a fun, safe route. The cows watched. The bull's head lifted slowly. Muscles tensed beneath thick skin. Eyes focused. The land knew something humans didn't. This path was dangerous. That evening, the HOA president posted online. New bike path is open. Safe and family friendly. Enjoy! Comments rolled in. Likes. Shares. Smiles. They thought it was a victory. They had no idea the storm was gathering quietly, invisibly. The man placed cameras. Small. Hidden. Legal. One near the path. One near the fence. One focused on where signs had been removed. Everything was recorded. Every worker. Every removal. Every step across the pasture. Truth does not need witnesses. Truth only needs time. At night, the cows were restless. The bull paced. A calf nuzzled its mother. The herd tightened together. The land was no longer peaceful. It was alert. It remembered its borders. It remembered the rules it had lived by for decades. The man walked the perimeter slowly, checking cameras and signs. He whispered quietly, almost to the wind. They were warned. The cows seemed to understand. They stayed close. Silent. Waiting. Back in the HOA office, panic was starting to creep in. A report arrived. Photos of the man's intact warning signs. Screenshots of previous incidents. Local news emails asking about the dangerous bike path. The president frowned. Control it, she barked at her assistants. Control the story. Make it ours. Spin it before anyone notices. But spinning the truth is never easy. The next morning, the path was alive with movement again. Joggers. Cyclists. Families with children. Phones in hands. Music in ears. Nobody watching the cows. The bull raised his head. Muscles tensed. The herd shifted closer. It was only a matter of time. The man stayed silent. He did not interfere. He did not shout. He did not warn the children directly. He simply prepared. Cameras. Signs. Documentation. All of it proof. Because when the storm came, no one could say they had not been warned. As the sun set, golden across the field, the land seemed to hum quietly. It remembered its boundaries. It remembered the people who had crossed them. It remembered the bull, standing tall and watching. The man sipped his coffee on the porch. The cameras in his hands. The herd behind him. And he whispered again. They were warned. The land waited. Silently. Impatiently. And so did he. The morning was calm. Almost too calm. The sun spilled over the pasture, painting everything gold. The cows moved slowly, grazing. The bull stood at the edge of the path, still and alert, eyes scanning every movement. The man watched from the porch. He had walked the land hundreds of times, yet today, something felt heavier. The air itself seemed tense, waiting. The signs were still there. Private property. Active cattle range. Enter at your own risk. Bold letters, impossible to ignore. Yet people ignored them. Cyclists rode past without hesitation. Joggers stepped carefully around cattle, but they laughed nervously as if they were playing a game. Children ran ahead, yelling to each other. The signs were invisible to them. The man clenched his jaw. This was exactly what he had feared. Later that morning, the HOA president arrived in her black SUV. She stepped onto the pasture like she owned the air itself. 2 board members followed, clipboard in hand, taking notes as if they were surveying conquered land. The man approached calmly. "This land is private," he said. "Your path cuts through an active cattle range." She smiled. A thin, sharp smile. Her sunglasses reflected the sun. "It looks open," she said. "It's perfect for families." The man's eyes narrowed. "This is not safe." She laughed. A short, sharp laugh that echoed across the empty path. "Safety is what we define," she said. "This is a family area now." The bull shifted behind the man. Muscles tensed. Hooves stamped softly against the ground. The man did not move. He did not shout. The bull did. A single snort escaped its nostrils. A warning. The HOA president ignored it. She stepped closer, pointing at the man. "Are you threatening people?" she asked. Her voice was sharp, like metal. "No," the man replied quietly. "This is a warning." The president turned to her board members. "You hear that?" she said. "He's being difficult." The board nodded, scribbling notes. They did not see the herd tightening behind the man. They did not notice the tension in the air. They only saw a problem to control. By noon, a new letter arrived at the man's house. It was formal. Thick paper. Bold words. It ordered him to remove aggressive animals from the property immediately. It gave him 7 days. 7 days. The man smiled slightly. The bull raised its head. They were ready. The path was busy again. A group of schoolchildren raced along the line, shouting. Bells rang repeatedly. Phones buzzed with music. The cows remained still at first. But the herd had memory. It knew trespassers. It knew danger. A calf nuzzled its mother. The adult cows shifted, forming a subtle wall. The bull moved slightly forward, muscles coiling like a spring. The land itself was quiet, holding its breath. The man adjusted the cameras he had installed. One on a tree. One hidden behind a bush. One facing the newly cleared path. Everything was recorded. Every step. Every laugh. Every removed sign. He had proof. Proof does not yell. Proof does not plead. Proof only waits. In the HOA office, the president posted online. Some residents resist progress, she wrote. But safety is our priority. Likes appeared. Shares appeared. Comments rolled in. They praised her. They believed her. She smiled. She believed herself. She did not see the storm gathering quietly across the fields. That evening, the man walked the perimeter of the pasture. The cows followed him silently. The bull's shadow stretched long in the golden light. They were warned, he whispered. Not to humans. To the land. To the herd. The wind carried the words through the tall grass. The herd shifted closer. Silent. Watching. Waiting. That night, the land breathed again. Not with peace, but with anticipation. The bull rested near the center of the pasture. Muscles flexed even in sleep. The herd formed a quiet barrier. The boundaries of the land were clear. Across town, the HOA president slept uneasily. She reviewed the reports on her desk. Photos from the man's cameras had leaked. Emails from worried residents arrived faster than she could read them. She tapped her fingers impatiently. Her mind calculated. Control. Spin. Narrative. But control does not last forever. The next morning, the path was alive again. Cyclists rode fast. Joggers shouted. Parents yelled at children to stay on the path. The bull lifted his head. Hooves pressed into the ground. Muscles tightened. The herd moved subtly toward the path. Every step of the cyclists, every shout, every bell, echoed across the pasture. The land waited. The herd waited. And the man waited. The man stayed calm. He did not confront anyone. He did not shout. He did not panic. He prepared. He placed more cameras. He moved warning signs to more visible spots. He documented every step, every removal, every ignored warning. The HOA thought he was weak. They thought he was overreacting. They were wrong. The sun dipped toward the horizon. Shadows stretched long across the bike path. The herd moved closer together. The bull's head lifted slowly. The wind carried tension like electricity through the grass. The man sipped his coffee on the porch. He whispered once more. They were warned. The land listened. The herd listened. The man's eyes scanned every movement, every shadow. And far across the pasture, the warning was clear. Trespassers would pay attention. One way or another. The scene ended with quiet, but it was not peace. It was waiting. The calm before a storm that no one in the HOA had imagined. And for the man in the herd, it was enough. The morning sun painted the pasture in gold. Everything looked calm. Almost peaceful. The cows grazed quietly. The bull stood at the far edge, massive, powerful, and alert. The grass swayed gently in the wind. But peace was a lie. The bike path was alive. Children laughed as they rode their bikes. Adults jogged along the white lines. Headphones blocked their attention. Phones captured selfies. No one looked at the signs. Private property. Active cattle range. Enter at your own risk. Invisible to all of them. The man stood at the edge of the pasture, watching. Silent. Calm. The herd shifted slightly behind him, muscles coiling, eyes sharp. The bull lifted its massive head. Nostrils flared. The earth seemed to tremble slightly beneath its weight. It had been ignored. The warnings had been laughed at. And the path had opened. The land itself was ready to act. A group of teenagers raced down the path. Ringing bells. Laughing. Shouting to each other over the wind. Look at this, one yelled. This is amazing. They did not see the warning signs. They did not see the bull. They did not see the herd tighten behind him. The air changed. The silence that had been waiting all week cracked. The bull moved forward. Slow at first. Then faster. Hooves pressed into the soft soil. Dust rose from the ground. The largest teen leaned on his bell again. He laughed. The bull's head lifted higher. The herd's energy shifted. A low snort escaped from the bull. Warning! Mom, a boy screamed. The sound cracked through the field. The mother turned just in time to see the bull lowering its head. Muscles coiled. Eyes focused. The cyclists panicked. Bikes swerved. Some fell. Metal twisted as tires hit the dirt. Chaos erupted in seconds. A smaller child tripped over the edge of the path. The mother lunged to grab him. Another teen tumbled onto a bench. The bull charged past them. The herd fanned out behind, protecting its territory. Screams filled the air. Dust covered the path. Bells rang uncontrollably. Phones flew. The man stood still. He did not run. He did not shout. His eyes tracked every movement. Every step. Every scream. The cameras he had placed recorded everything. Proof. Unmistakable, undeniable. The herd moved in perfect coordination. The bull in front. The adults and children forced back by fear, not by malice. An ambulance arrived. Sirens blared, but the sound felt small against the chaos of the pasture. Neighbors screamed instructions. Parents scrambled to protect their children. The bull stopped. Breathing heavy. Eyes wild. The herd formed a silent wall behind it. No one dared approach. The HOA president arrived later, in her black SUV. Her hair was perfect. Her suit flawless. But her confidence had faltered. She stepped onto the path. Her heels sank slightly into the soft ground. She saw the chaos. Bikes broken. People scared. A small child crying in the dust. "Why are there animals here?" she shouted. Her voice cracked. The man watched silently from the far end of the pasture. Nothing escaped his eyes. Nothing. Police arrived. They assessed the scene quickly. Photographs. Statements. The broken bikes. The disturbed ground. They turned to the man. "Is this your land?" one officer asked. "Yes," he said calmly. "Was anyone warned?" The officer looked at the signs still standing. Photos still attached to posts. Visible from the path. "Yes," the officer said quietly. "They were warned." The bull stamped the ground again. The herd followed. The message was clear. This was the land's boundary. This was its defense. The HOA president turned pale. She opened her mouth, then closed it. No excuse. No explanation. She had miscalculated. She had ignored the land. And the land had spoken. By evening, the path was empty. The air was thick with dust. Broken bikes lay on the ground. Screams echoed in the memory of the pasture. The herd moved calmly again, grazing where it belonged. The bull stood tall, surveying the empty path. Silent. Victorious. The man walked among them. His eyes scanned the path. The cameras still recorded. Signs intact. "They were warned," he whispered. The land had waited patiently. It had acted decisively. And now, it had returned to calm. The HOA president drove away in silence. No words. No plan. Her ego had been humiliated. Her control shattered. Power can be an illusion. The land reminded her of that. Across the pasture, the man sipped his coffee. He watched the herd graze. The bull lowered its head. The cows moved freely, unafraid. The bike path was gone from their minds. The humans would remember it forever. Some lessons are learned the hard way. The sun set slowly. Golden light bathed the land. The wind whispered through the grass. The pasture was calm again. But no one forgot the chaos that had erupted. Not the humans. Not the HOA. Not the man. And certainly not the land. The morning after the chaos was heavy. The bike path was empty. Broken bikes lay scattered. The dust of the day before still clung to the grass. The air smelled of earth, sweat, and fear. The herd grazed calmly now, the bull at the center, muscles relaxed but eyes sharp. The man watched silently from the edge of the pasture. Nothing escaped his gaze. He did not celebrate. He did not smile. He only prepared. Inside the HOA office, panic had settled in like a storm cloud. Phones rang endlessly. Emails flooded inboxes. Residents demanded answers. Reports of the dangerous cattle reached City Hall. The HOA president, still in her perfect suit, walked briskly between her staff. Her heels clicked against the floor, but they sounded hollow. Power, she realized, could slip faster than she imagined. "We need control," she barked. "Spin the story. Make it ours. Make the landowner the problem." Her board members nodded, scribbling notes as if documenting strategy for war. And so, the blame game began. The man returned home that afternoon to find another letter waiting. It was thicker than the last. The paper smelled of ink and authority. Bold words accused him of allowing dangerous animals near public access. It demanded compensation. It demanded immediate compliance. It demanded silence. He read it once. Then again. The edges of the paper felt sharp in his hands. He placed it carefully with his other documents, legal papers, old and untouchable. He did not reply. Not yet. Meanwhile, the HOA tried to take action. Workers returned to the pasture. They measured. They took photographs. They removed signs. The path was becoming a controlled zone. To them, removing the warnings erased the problem. To the landowner, it only added more evidence. The day wore on. Cyclists arrived again. Children laughed. Adults chatted. Headphones blared music. No one noticed the bull. The herd tensed. A calf ran to its mother. The adult cows shifted closer to protect it. Every eye in the herd focused on the humans, tracking them like a storm watching the horizon. The man adjusted his cameras. Hidden ones. Visible ones. Strategically placed to record every step. He knew the truth had to speak for itself. Back in the HOA office, panic escalated. Screens showed images from the landowner's cameras. Workers removing fences. Signs torn down. Evidence the HOA could not erase. The president tapped her fingers against her desk. She wanted power. She wanted control. She wanted the story to stay hers. But reality does not bend to desire. Another letter arrived. This one carried the weight of law. It referenced negligence and liability. It demanded that the landowner remove his cattle immediately. 7 days. 7 days to move animals from land they had owned for generations. The man smiled faintly. The bull lifted its head. The herd's muscles coiled beneath the sunlight. The storm was coming. By evening, the bike path was alive again. Cyclists rang bells. Children ran ahead. Parents called warnings that went unheard. Phones recorded selfies. The land was tense. The bull moved slowly toward the path. The herd fanned out, forming a silent barrier. It waited. The man watched. Cameras recording every movement. Signs in place, bold and unyielding. The HOA thought he would react in panic. They thought he would plead. They thought he would fail. They were wrong. The sun dipped toward the horizon, stretching long shadows across the path. The wind carried tension like electricity through the grass. The bull's nostrils flared. Hooves pressed into the soil. The herd shifted closer together. The man whispered once more, almost to the land itself. They were warned. And the land listened. The HOA president sat alone that night. Her desk was littered with reports, emails, and angry calls. She reread the landowner's documents, photos, and videos she could not ignore. Her confidence wavered. Her ego, once untouchable, now trembled. Power is only an illusion. She closed her laptop, silence filling the office. Across town, the man walked the perimeter of his pasture. The herd followed silently, a moving wall of muscle and instinct. The bull stood tall, surveying the path that had caused so much chaos. The signs were bold. The cameras silent witnesses. Everything documented, everything ready. No one could claim ignorance now. That night, the pasture breathed again. Not with peace, but with anticipation. The land remembered. The bull remembered. The man remembered. They waited. For the next move. For the truth to be revealed. For justice to be seen clearly. The HOA had tried to erase reality. They had tried to rewrite history. They had tried to intimidate. They had tried to silence the man. But the land, the cameras, and the herd had their own witnesses. And some truths cannot be silenced. The man sat on his porch, sipping coffee. The herd grazed quietly. The bull lowered its head. The cows moved freely, unconcerned with human schemes. The letters, threats, and fines would come. He expected them. He had proof. And when the truth finally spoke, no one would ignore it. The sun set slowly. Golden light bathed the pasture. Shadows stretched across the ground. The man whispered one last time. They were warned. And this time, it was final. The courthouse was silent. Too silent. The walls, tall and gray, held the echoes of every footstep. Marble floors gleamed. Windows reflected the bright sunlight outside, but inside, the tension was almost black. The man walked in quietly. No suit. No show. Just a folder in his hands. Brown, heavy, and filled with decades of truth. The HOA president arrived later. Perfect hair. Sharp suit. Sharp smile. But today, it felt brittle. She walked in confidently. Her heels clicked. But it sounded hollow in the silence of the courtroom. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Then sat. The day had begun. The HOA lawyer spoke first. Fast words. Legal terms. Blame placed squarely on the man. He allowed his animals to roam, he said. He did not secure the land. He is negligent. The president nodded behind him. Confidence dripping. But the words hung heavy in the air. The courtroom seemed to pulse with anticipation. Then it was the landowner's turn. He stood slowly. No anger. No fear. Only calm. He handed the folder to his lawyer. The courtroom lights dimmed slightly. The first video played on the screen. Workers cutting the fence. Signs removed. Paint applied directly across the pasture. Dates stamped clearly. Times visible. The judge leaned forward. Whispers ran through the courtroom. People gasped. The truth did not yell. It did not plead. It only existed. Another video played. The path full of people. Cyclists laughing. Children running. Headphones blaring. The bull lifted its massive head. The herd moved with purpose. Dust rose as they shifted to protect their young. The chaos from the earlier day replayed in real time. The HOA lawyer stopped mid-sentence. His voice faltered. He looked at the president, whose face had gone pale. She had no answers. No excuse. Then came the photographs. Close-ups of warning signs. Still standing, still visible. Private property. Active cattle range. Enter at your own risk. The camera had captured every removal, every modification, every step of the workers. Evidence. Unmistakable. The judge's gaze swept across the room. He looked at the HOA president. Did you approve this path? He asked. Yes, she said softly. On land you did not own? The judge asked. The courtroom fell silent. No words. No excuses. Just the weight of undeniable truth. The judge took a deep breath. This was avoidable, he said slowly. Every warning ignored. Every fence removed. Every sign destroyed. You created a hazard where none needed to exist. The president's shoulders slumped. The lawyer opened his mouth but no words came. Power can crumble silently. The ruling was clear. The HOA was at fault. Fines were issued. Orders given. The bike path had to be removed. The land had to be repaired. Public apology mandated. The president closed her eyes. Her control vanished. Her ego shattered. She had underestimated the land. She had ignored warnings. She had mocked patience. And the land, the man, and the herd had proven her wrong. Outside the courthouse, the sun was setting. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. The president remained silent. No words. No statements. She walked to her car and drove away. Humility forced by truth is heavier than power. The man did not speak to reporters. He walked back to his land. Silent. Calm. His herd grazing quietly behind him. The bull at the center, surveying the field like a king. The path was gone from the land. The grass had begun to grow again where it had been torn. Signs stood tall. Fences repaired. Nature heals when humans step back. The cameras had recorded everything. Every act of negligence. Every ignored warning. Every laugh at danger. The proof was clear. Indisputable. Unforgettable. The herd moved freely again. Calm. Safe. Protected. The man walked among them. Every step measured. Every glance careful. He whispered softly. They were warned. The bull lifted its head. Muscles flexed in slow motion. Eyes sharp. The pasture was quiet again, but this quiet carried weight. Months later, the story spread online. People called it crazy. Some called it justice. Comments debated endlessly. But the man never commented.
Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed it.